My name is Lena, 29 years old, and I've always prided myself on being the steady one in my relationships. It's June 15, 2025, and I'm sitting on my couch in my cramped apartment in Chicago, staring at my phone. The screen glows with a text from my partner, Mark, saying he's working late again with his team at the marketing firm where we both work. I should feel relieved. He's been distant lately, but something feels off. My thumb hovers over his name, debating whether to call. Instead, I open our shared photo album, scrolling through memories of our 2-year anniversary last month. We looked happy then, laughing at that Italian restaurant, his arm around me. Now, it feels like a lie. I met Mark at work 2 years ago. I was a junior copywriter, fresh from a creative writing degree, and he was a senior account manager, all charm and confidence. We bonded over late-night brainstorming sessions, and 6 months later, we were dating. He moved into my place last year, and I thought we were building something solid. But the last few months, he's been secretive, new passwords on his phone, excuses about client dinners, and whispers I couldn't place. My colleague, Rachel, a sleek account executive with a laugh that grates on me, started hovering around him more. I brushed it off as work stress, but tonight, my gut tells me otherwise. I decide to check his laptop, which he left open on the kitchen table. I know it's a breach of trust, but the nagging feeling won't let go. I find an email thread with Rachel, dated last week. "Can't wait for our trip next month," she wrote. "Mark, you're amazing. Let's keep this our little secret." My heart stops. There's a hotel booking confirmation for a weekend in Milwaukee, under both their names. Photos follow, Mark and Rachel at a bar, his hand on her waist, her lips near his ear. The date? Tomorrow, June 16th. I close the laptop, my hands trembling, a cold rage building inside me. He's been cheating with her, right under my nose, using work as a cover. I think back to the signs. Last month, Mark came home smelling of her perfume, floral, expensive, not my style. He claimed it was a client gift, but I saw the guilt in his eyes. Rachel's been overly friendly at the office, asking about my weekend plans, smirking when I mentioned Mark's late nights. I confronted him once, casually, and he laughed it off. "You're paranoid, Lena," he said, kissing my forehead. I wanted to believe him, but now the truth is staring me in the face. I feel sick, betrayed, but more than that, I feel determined. I won't cry. Not yet. I spend the night piecing it together. I check our joint bank account, $500 withdrawn last week, no explanation. I find a receipt in his jacket for a necklace I never received, the same one Rachel wore to the last office party. My mind races. How long has this been going on? I dig through his emails again, finding flirty messages stretching back 3 months. They met at a conference, hooked up, and kept it hidden. My colleague, my partner, the betrayal stings double. I think about quitting my job, but that would mean running away. No, I need a plan, something to turn this pain into power. The next morning, I go to work like nothing's wrong. Mark texts me, "Running late, love you," and I reply with a heart emoji, my stomach churning. Rachel's at her desk, sipping coffee, oblivious. I watch them during a team meeting. Mark avoiding my gaze, Rachel stealing glances at him. I stay silent, nodding through the agenda, my mind calculating. I won't confront them yet. My silence will be my weapon. I start gathering evidence, screenshots of the emails, photos, bank records, saving them to a secure cloud drive. I also copy my best campaign ideas, the ones I've been pitching, knowing they'll need them to cover their tracks. That afternoon, I call my friend Jess, a lawyer I met in college. "Jess, I need advice," I say, my voice low. I explain the cheating, the evidence, and my job. She listens, then says, "Lena, you've got grounds for a lawsuit if you want, emotional distress, maybe theft if that money's yours. But if you stay, you can use this to your advantage." I nod, an idea forming. I could outmaneuver them at work, let their guilt unravel them. Jess suggests documenting everything and consulting HR later. I thank her, feeling a strange calm. This isn't just about heartbreak, it's about control. By evening, Mark comes home, acting normal. "Tough day," he sighs, loosening his tie. I smile, cooking dinner like always, my mind elsewhere. He doesn't know I've seen the emails, the photos, the plans. I decide to let him go to Milwaukee with Rachel tomorrow. I'll stay silent, watch, and wait. My next move will come when they least expect it. As he falls asleep beside me, I lie awake, plotting. This betrayal won't define me, it'll be their undoing. What I do next will change everything, and they won't see it coming. The next morning, June 16, 2025, I woke up with a plan forming in my mind. Mark was already gone, leaving a note, off to Milwaukee for the client pitch. Back tomorrow. Love you. The lie stung, but I kept my face neutral as I read it, crumpling the paper in my fist. He and Rachel were probably on their way, thinking they'd pulled off the perfect deception. I decided to let them have their trip. I'd use the time to set my strategy in motion. My silence would be their undoing, and I needed to be smart about it. I went to work, my head held high despite the ache in my chest. Rachel's desk was empty, confirming my suspicions. The office buzzed with the usual Monday chatter, but I felt detached, like I was watching from outside my body. I sat through a status meeting, nodding at the right moments, while Mark's absence was noted with a casual, "He's with the Milwaukee client." I smiled faintly, knowing the truth. After the meeting, I slipped into the HR office, requesting a private consultation with Diane, the HR manager. I didn't spill everything yet, just mentioned personal concerns about a colleague's behavior. She scheduled me for Thursday, giving me time to prepare. Back at my desk, I started my quiet campaign. I accessed the shared drive where our team stored campaign files and copied my latest proposal, a branding strategy for a major client, Zenith Corp, worth $300,000. It was my brainchild, months of research and creativity, but I knew Mark and Rachel would lean on it to impress the Milwaukee client. I saved a backup, then subtly altered the file, swapped a few key metrics and added a watermark with my initials, LM. It wasn't sabotage, just a marker. If they used it, I'd have proof of their reliance on my work. I emailed the original to my personal account, covering my tracks. That afternoon, I met Jess for lunch at a diner near the office. She brought a legal pad, scribbling notes as I laid out the evidence, emails, photos, bank withdrawals. "Lena, you've got a solid case for emotional distress," she said, tapping her pen. "But if you want to stay at the firm, you could report this to HR and demand a transfer or compensation. Or you could wait, let them trip over themselves." I considered it. Reporting now might end their affair, but it wouldn't satisfy the anger simmering inside me. I chose to wait, to let their guilt and arrogance build. "I want them to feel the fall," I said. Jess nodded. "Then document everything. We'll be ready when you decide." Back home, Mark returned late Tuesday night, reeking of whiskey and that floral perfume. He kissed my cheek, mumbling about a tough pitch, but his eyes darted away. I played along, asking about Milwaukee, watching him squirm. "It went okay," he said, avoiding details. I nodded, cooking dinner silently, my mind racing. The next morning, I checked his phone while he showered, new texts from Rachel, "Amazing weekend. Let's be careful." My stomach turned, but I stayed composed. I forwarded the messages to my cloud drive, adding to my arsenal. At work, the tension escalated. Wednesday, Rachel approached me, all smiles. "Lena, heard Mark killed it in Milwaukee. You must be proud." Her tone was syrupy, testing me. I smiled back, cool as ice. "He's talented," I said, letting the words hang. She faltered, then walked off. I knew she was nervous. I'd seen her delete files from the shared drive that afternoon, likely the altered Zenith proposal. My watermark plan was working. I reported the deletion to IT, claiming a glitch, and they restored the original. Rachel's panic was palpable when she realized Thursday's HR meeting was my next move. I met Diane in her office, closing the door. "I've discovered my partner, Mark, is cheating with a colleague, Rachel," I said, sliding printouts of the emails across her desk. "It's affecting my work." Diane's face hardened. "This is serious, Lena. We'll investigate, but you'll need to file a formal complaint." I nodded, requesting a transfer to another department instead. She agreed to process it, warning me to avoid confrontation. I left feeling empowered. My silence was forcing their hand. That weekend, I noticed changes. Mark was jumpy, checking his phone constantly. Rachel avoided eye contact at work, her usual confidence shaken. I kept quiet, letting their paranoia grow. On Sunday, June 22nd, I found a draft email from Mark to Rachel on his laptop, unsent. "Lena's acting strange. Should we come clean?" My heart raced, they were cracking. I didn't reply to his nervous, "How was your day?" that evening. Instead, I planned my next step. I'd let them confess, then strike. Monday, June 23rd, the office was abuzz. A client called, furious. Zenith Corp had rejected the Milwaukee pitch, citing inaccurate data. Mark and Rachel were summoned to a meeting with the CEO. I watched from my desk as they stumbled through excuses, their voices muffled through the glass walls. Later, Mark cornered me. "Lena, we need to talk," he said, sweat beading on his forehead. I raised an eyebrow. About what? He hesitated, then blurted, the pitch failed. Rachel and we used your work. I stayed silent, letting the confession hang. He didn't mention the affair, yet, that night, I met Jess again. They're slipping, I said, showing her the email draft. I want to file the complaint tomorrow. She drafted a formal letter, citing emotional distress and professional misconduct. Tuesday morning, I submitted it to our. By noon, Mark and Rachel were suspended pending investigation. The office whispered, and I kept my head down, my silence louder than words. Mark texted me, Lena, I'm sorry. Can we talk? I didn't respond. Their world was unraveling, and I was just getting started. The days following my HR complaint were a pressure cooker. Tuesday, June 24, 2025, started with an email from Diane summoning me to a follow-up meeting. Mark and Rachel were suspended, their desks eerily empty, and the office buzzed with rumors. I walked into Diane's office at 10 a.m., my heart pounding but my face composed. She had a stack of documents, my evidence, their statements. Lena, we've confirmed misconduct, she said, her tone grave. Mark admitted to the affair with Rachel, and they used your work without credit. We're terminating them both. I nodded, keeping my expression neutral. What about me? I asked. She offered a transfer to the creative director role I'd always wanted, effective immediately, with a 20% raise. I accepted, feeling a mix of relief and triumph. The fallout was swift. By noon, Mark's belongings were boxed up, and Rachel stormed out, glaring at me as she passed. I didn't flinch. That afternoon, the CEO, Mr. Hargrove, called me in. Lena, this is a mess, but your work saved us with Zenith, he said. I'm sorry for what happened. You'll lead the next campaign. It was a victory, but I knew it came at a cost. Mark texted me that night, Lena, I'm out. Can we talk? I messed up. I ignored it, deleting the message. Rachel sent an email, begging me not to press charges, claiming she was influenced. I archived it, letting her stew. At home, the silence was deafening. Mark's clothes still hung in the closet, his toothbrush sat by the sink. I packed his things into boxes, leaving them by the door with a note, gone. Don't come back. He showed up Wednesday morning, eyes red, pleading. Lena, it was a mistake. Rachel meant nothing. I crossed my arms. You chose her over me, Mark. Get out. He tried to argue, but I closed the door, locking it behind him. I felt a weight lift, my silence had broken them apart, just as I'd planned. The next week, HR concluded their investigation. Mark and Rachel were fired, and the firm issued a public apology to me, citing internal breaches. The Zenith campaign launched under my direction, pulling in $400,000 in new contracts by July 2025. My team rallied around me, their respect palpable. I moved into a new apartment, a bright one-bedroom with a view of Lake Michigan, leaving the past behind. But the victory felt hollow without closure. I needed to know why. I met Jess for coffee on July 10th. They're done, she said, showing me court filings. Mark had lost a lawsuit from another affair victim, and Rachel was blacklisted from marketing firms. You could sue for emotional distress, Lena. You'd win. I shook my head. I just want peace. She smiled. You've already won. They're paying in ways money can't touch. I agreed, feeling a strange satisfaction. My silence had amplified their mistakes, and their lives were unraveling. Months passed. By September 2025, I was thriving as creative director. My campaign won an industry award, and I spoke at a conference, sharing my story anonymously. Mark tried contacting me again, sending flowers I donated to a shelter. Rachel's social media went silent, her career in tatters. I didn't gloat, I'd moved on. One evening, I found an old journal from our early days, filled with poems I'd written for Mark. I burned it in my kitchen sink, watching the pages curl into ash. It was closure. Reflecting on it, my silence was my strength. I could have screamed, fought, or collapsed, but I chose strategy. My dad always said, Lena, the quiet ones win. He was right. This wasn't just about revenge, it was about reclaiming my life. The affair broke my trust, but it built my resilience. I started dating again in November, cautiously, with a guy named Ethan who works in graphic design, ironic, given the name. We're taking it slow, and for the first time, I feel in control. If you've been betrayed, this story's for you. It's not about loud vengeance, it's about letting their guilt do the work. Have you faced a similar heartbreak? How did you handle it? Share below. I'd love to hear. And if you enjoyed this, subscribe for more tales of triumph over betrayal. See you next time.
Looking back on June 2025. I realized silence was my greatest weapon. When Mark cheated with Rachel, I could have raged, but I chose calm. That choice broke them apart. HR fired them, their careers crumbled, and I reclaimed my life. This wasn't just revenge, it was survival. I learned trust can shatter, but resilience rebuilds stronger. My new role, my new home, even my cautious steps with Ethan, they're proof of that. Dad was right, the quiet ones win. If you faced betrayal, know this: your silence can turn pain into power. Let their guilt do the work, and rise above. This journey taught me I'm enough, with or without them. At Revenge Tempest, my silence shattered a betrayal on June 15th. Love turned to triumph. Join the storm. Subscribe now to witness more gripping revenge tales like this. Follow us for fresh stories of justice and payback. Don't miss out, hit that bell icon and stay with us for every twist.